Hello. Is that work?
Hello.
That's,
Does
that,
that work?
that, that works. All right, guys. If you guys can hear me, I have a new sound card, and yeah, it's seems to work everywhere else, but on this fantastic interface, which is odd. So, mic's working there. That works there. Hello, but yet this one has no sound. Audio, edit audio avatar. Let's see that one. That's right. That's odd. So I'm using a different login now, which is oh, I guess I can, to be honest. But I need to be able to hear you. So let me put my headphones in. All right. Hello. Excellent. But there is a delay. That's ah, that's not gonna run. Da-da-da. Oh, everyone make yourself at home while we try to work out the difficulties that are technical. Let's see. So new sound card, microphone's going in. Maybe, it goes in there like that, like that. Uh, oh, maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. Hello? I hope it's that. Yo. No, ain't that. So you can see that I can mute it, but nothing's coming. Maybe the topic is just that hot. Maybe it's a hot topic. Yeah. All right. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, I'm using a different. I would prefer to use my one because I think when I talk to you, there'll be a slight delay, and I'm hearing that. It's quite annoying. So it's coming through there. How solo layout? No, we don't want that one. Well, that's odd. The machine is picking me up. I can clearly see it. Unless audio. Let's go to Chrome preferences. Oh, maybe you have to allow it in Chrome. I don't know. Search engine. History. Oh well. Well, guys, I'm gonna let me attempt to use this delay because you guys can hear me clear. I'm using my phone, but the only issue is I'm hearing myself back. Um, so because of that, it's slightly whatever. But it doesn't matter. We've got a good show today. Anyway, all right. So what you're going to see on the screen at the moment is let's go through the traditionals. Let's what are we doing? What are we doing? We're read mode. Yes, gives you more size, isn't that? Isn't that great? Excellent. All right. So Black Bear broadcasts. We're at show 28 now. Let's see what we're doing. Yeah. So unfortunately, after much research, I've concluded that currently black people are collectively inadequate, just like this. Well, you can tell by the actual use of the new sound card. It's all over the shop. So this is the truth to all that claim. And yeah, we have to do something about it. When it comes to actually trying to achieve stuff of progress, when it comes to working as a collective, sure, some things keep happening. But anyway, today we're going to invite people on. Hopefully, we'll get the audio sorted by then. And we want to practice the 4D values, which are, as everyone knows if you're regulars, discipline, dedication, discernment, and dignity. Very important, right? All right, so we can do that. Now, what we got? Can using descriptive language instead of derogatory language help black people stay better on topic? We're going to talk about some very touchy subjects as time goes on, and some people will be triggered here and there. So we want to try to do, if we can, try to use descriptive language, not derogative language. Because sometimes, some people might not really appreciate that, and just, it lowers anxiety, it makes conversations easier. So some of the words here, as you can see, we can always come back if you need to request this word, like, oh, there's a word I want to use, but I don't know what to use. Definitely I'll use the one to the left, maybe the one to the right. That might be helpful. Who knows? Let me know if you want to sleep when we're talking later on. And this show is about Black Burman. So what is Black Burman? Well, let's highlight that. It's about black people helping black people on black issues. That's pretty much it there. All right, excellent. So that means everyone, black bear is a lifestyle. So yeah, let me yeah. So tell your friend to tell a friend to be a friend. Check that's on. Wow, 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 wow. Excellent, cool. Right, we move that to the side. All right, so now let's get our show started. That's such a how that oh maybe click off here. How that even happened is beyond me, guys. It's beyond me how the sound even does not work. This is absolutely curious. And I have to really check that out because it works everywhere else. And I'm wondering if it is actually a thing. But I'm sure I can let someone speak for a bit as I go. Oh, I'm gonna show some videos, so that'll be a very good time later on. But anyway, um, all right, here's the topic. Here's a topic that we're talking now. We're going through certain stages of these topics, and the reason why is because at a certain point I will be talking to black. It's going to start with black men, and it is the concept of like the concept of black love, and is it important? Is it not important? All that good stuff there. So we're going to start before we get there, just having like a couple of shows just leads up to certain ideas and concepts that some people might not be aware of, but then again, maybe they are. So where we're at the moment is racial whitening. Voila. What is it? And can it benefit black people? Can it? Some of you, if you know what it is, let me know. If you don't, let me know. So we're going to establish what it is. Now, this picture, fantastic picture, little Photoshop thing I've done here. So basically, as you see, Megan and the mother, there's a mother there, and obviously the queen looking at the new baby, and the prince. Well, he's not, I don't think he's a prince. No, I don't think he qualifies as a prince. I don't know if that's connected to anything else, but I don't think he is. And everyone's happy, It's well, there they are anyway, at least, which is good. And in the background, we have a famous picture. If you ever Google the word mulatto, which is a historical word that they used to use for people, what they said, half African descent then and half European. So the term was used below. And if you look up the term racial whitening, you'll get this one as well. We have a picture. We have a picture of Afro-Brazilian, what we would call black woman, head to the left. That left, yep. And then you have a daughter, which is what they describe as a malo, which we don't use that term anymore, not really. And that's obviously the husband. Well, it might have been husband in those times. It might have been something else, but the father of this individual here is European, and the mother's there. And then this is the husband, the European descent, and then it's offspring. Offspring is what they would then call a quadroon, I believe. Yep, quadroon. And the mother is very happy. Some say she's happy because she's got a grandson, which is good. Others say she's happy because her daughter has found a European gentleman. And in those times, maybe these times as well, this is the preferred because of economic wealth and some other stuff. Some people might even say self-hating and all the rest of it. But we'll tackle that in that period if that one was going on. Now we're gonna go moving on. All right. So where are we? Racial whitening. Bear with me, people. While I read this stuff out. Is an ideology that was widely accepted in Brazil between 1889 and 1914 as the solution to the Negro problem. Very important word there, the Negro problem. There seems to be a lot of problems around the Negroes, and there was a problem there. And however, racial whitening, specifically to Brazil, also encompasses the perception of individuals as being white in relation to their position in the class system. So, people associate white and class and that kind of stuff, as some might do today in some aspects. Supporters of the whitening ideology believe that the Negro race will advance culturally and genetically, two important things there, culturally and genetically, or even disappear totally within several generations of mixed breeding between white people and black people. So, just to unpack that, that if Europeans and in Brazil at the time, if they were to, practice miscegenation and these kinds of things, the black people, the offspring and as a whole would be culturally better. They'll be genetically superior, and hopefully, if all works out to the white, the Europeans and the white supremacists ideas, they'll just wipe out completely. This ideology gained support from two scientific racism beliefs that were prominent during this time. One being social Darwinism, some might have heard of that, which applied Darwin's theory of natural selection to a society of race, and other being Arianism. This is something that Hitler used as well. The belief that white Aryan race was superior to all other cultures. By combining these two ideas, the white elites of the time believed that because white blood was superior, it inevitably whitened the inferior race's blood. All right, so this was what was going on in those days. But back in the dates there. Now let's move on. Let's see where we go with this. All right, so for those in Australia, the term black is also used for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, black brothers. From their lineage is actually rooted deep in the ancestry of Australia, and their phenotype is very similar in parts to those people of African descent. But either way, the Europeans label them black as well, and they're black brothers, of course. You've got the title, you're part of the struggle, all that kind of stuff, right? Anyway, so if anyone doesn't know about the stolen generations, the stolen generations were the children of Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders descent who were removed from their families by the Australian federal and state government agencies and church missions, okay, and the acts that their respective parliaments. The removals of these, referred to as half-caste children, were conducted in a period between approximately 1905 and 1967. Although in some places, mixed-race children were still being taken up to the 70s. That happens a lot. I think the Tuskegee experiments was another one that was going on way into the 70s. So, keep going. The federal government estimates that in a certain in a certain region between 1 and 10 and above, 1 in 3 Indigenous Australian children were forcibly taken from their families and communities between 1910 and 1970. The policy of removing mixed-race Aboriginal children from their mothers is related to an assumption that the Aboriginal people were dying off, and they were, given their catastrophic population decline after the white contact. They're very white contact, but used to probably more like extermination and war and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so when the Europeans came to the Aborigine, the land where the Aboriginal people lived and stuff, a lot of them died through war, killing, and that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, there was a next group known as the Tasmanians who were completely wiped out, which is unfortunate. But that happened then as well. But that wasn't through any, that was through the general killing, that one. Whites assumed that full-blooded tribal Aboriginal population would be unable to sustain itself and was doomed to extinction. So if we, after the war, whatever, we just leave them, they'll die. So the idea expressed by A.O. Neville, the chief protector of the Aboriginals of the Western Australia, and others in late as 1930, was that mixed-race children could be trained to work in white societies, and other generations would marry white and assimilate into white society. So if they take the children, put them into European societies, they're not going to look like us now, but we can try. And then what happened after a couple of generations, who knows what happened. So we have a picture here. We have this lady here, if you can see, if this is moving really well. She's what they call half-blood, they're half-caste or whatever. That's what the term was. And, Aboriginal descent. And she married a European person. And then they had what they will refer as a quadroon. And then this individual would then married again. And then that person had a octoroon. And by this time, this is obviously old day pictures. I can't really tell. I assume the child is blonde hair, blue eyes. Funny enough, you actually do get some average blonde hair, which is interesting. Were these? Let's see. I haven't got the sound, but I can't. Were these relations through rape, or were the women went freely to the white man's bed? In this situation here, I would say it'll be a mixture of both. But also there is this thing that once you're like under kind of occupation, and you can't willingly go to, it's like a dynamic that doesn't work. But I think it'll be a mixture of both. But what we do know is the children were living with the mothers. So what would tend to happen, I assume what tend to happen is the men would go to where the area is and something happened and the women were pregnant. But that's something we can unpack. But generally, the idea is more so that from the European, there is a willingness, or I understand that certain sections of society, it is possible to outbreed what they call the black fellas or the Aborigines in this land. And this was something that they wanted, that they did willingly. But okay, let's move on. Now, this moving across the sea, this is now historically people call them red men, but they're Native Indians, a First Nation, that's the community. So there's two places here. All right. In the 60s, scoop refers to the practice that occurred in Canada, all right, of taking or scooping up indigenous children from their families and the communities from placement in foster homes or adoption. Despite the reference to one decade, the 60s scoop began in the late 1950s and persisted to the 80s. Okay, went quite long. It's estimated that a total of 20,000 indigenous children were taken from their families and fostered or adopted out primarily to, okay, you name it, white middle class families as a part of the 60s scoop. So, yeah, that's a similar thing going. That's in Canada now, taking children. This one, there wasn't actually. This wasn't what they would have cast as mixed at the time. They just took the children, and this particular thing, they didn't really value the culture, and they wanted to change the culture of the Indians. That same practice went on in America, and the Native American boarding schools, also known as the Indian residential schools, were established in the United States during the early 19th and mid 20th centuries with the primary objective of civilizing, assimilating Native American children and youth into the Euro. American culture while destroying and vilifying Native American culture. So they didn't really appreciate the Native Indian culture. They thought it was quite savage. Um, and they wanted to really change it. I don't think they saw what they were doing as savage. They saw it was quite civilized. Or maybe they did, they didn't care. It's hard to tell with certain kind of people groups at certain times. But that's what they're doing. Now, all right. So now we're moving on to is moving man. I could see sis well, okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to this. So let's break this down. So this is how this is a rough me throwing pictures in there for people just to see diagrams all over it. But what we have here, let's say we have what they call a black gentleman. We can give him a name. Let's say he's from Nigeria, Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, anywhere. Give him a name. Any name you want to give him. Abu, something like this. There he is. Anyway, so here he is at the start of the of the grid, whatever. And he's obviously met a European wife. Perhaps he tried to find a Nigerian and he didn't. It wasn't successful. Or maybe he came to a European country to learn and maybe go back to Nigeria and probably boost the IT industry, the oil industry. Who knows? But he's around European women, and he's obviously found a wife. And then they've had a daughter. Her name, probably a European name, but there's many to pick from. And there she is, and she's obviously tried to find a husband. Kofi. So his name's not Kofi. We're going to rename this gentleman Kofi. Thank you. There, we have a name. Do you reckon that his daughter would have a Nigerian name, or do you reckon she would have a European name? What do you reckon, guys? What do you reckon? Do you reckon he would insist that because if that the European would probably take his name, which is cool, I guess. But I don't know what Chi Chi is that a good Nigerian name? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, you let me know. So his daughter offspring is Chi Chi. Then she's obviously found David, whatever the name that suffices is good, David. And then they have a child. Their child, historically, this would have been known as quadroon. And and then obviously, the quadroon lady finds a husband. Very, nice haircut. Funny enough, this haircut they usually say is associated with racism. Funny enough, but I don't think we should really look into that. But you never know. But they're probably wrong. And then obviously you have the Nocturne, which is the quadroon. We haven't given the quadroon lady a name. I'm sure they're fans. Okay, was that Iffy? Is that Iffy? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think it's Iffy. Iffy. So that's Iffy. So that's we've got. There we go. We've got Kofi, Iffy, and the quadroon lady. By this time, she probably would have taken a European name. So, Kemi. So maybe give her Kemi. Maybe Iffy was really wanting to get her the name. So we have Kofi. What's this one? We have Iffy, and we have Kemi. There we go. Now Kemi has this a son with George. Let's say George. George is a very good European name. George. Now George, they have a son. I mean, it's up. We could give him any name you want. We could call him. What's my good? Give me a good. What's a good Nigerian? I should know this really. I was looking not too long ago. Man, Abba. Let's call him Abba. Yeah, Abba. All right, I think that's a good one. Means king, I believe. All right, so Abba, just because he's away, he has Nigerian ancestry somewhere along the line up there. Boom, and then obviously he marries, has children with this Becky, maybe I don't know, whatever name works, and then They have, by law, I think, kind of by law now, they then register this lady as white. I think that's how they do it. Oh yeah, Ulufumi. So Ulufumi, this is now Ulufumi. It's been renamed Ulufumi, and Ulufumi has a daughter. I don't know if this daughter is going to want to take a Nigerian name. She might do, but probably not. Fumi is a Yoruba name, just so everyone knows. So maybe Femi was Yoruba mother and Igbo father. Who knows? Maybe not. Becky, yes, Becky is the name. So anyway, now, so this has been roughly front image in together. For all we know, this lady here has a black parent. And this is the thing when you're dealing with been dealing with genes and pool. Sometimes even though you see a black person, two black parents, they themselves might have had some kind of history, especially if you're from the West Indies and old rape culture, this kind of stuff going on. Now, what is more accurate that we have to look through is the next page. And the next page that we can go through it is here. As you can see, so if you don't know, this is a very famous. If you ever type in the word, uh, mixed race and this kind of stuff, you 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 when you say Femi's door is straight. Okay, this Femi's door. Oh, well, this one. Oh, you mean this one? No, this one's not. No, no, no. Yeah. Oh, Femi. Which one's Femi? I can't remember. This woman's European, right? But you're seeing the through here. But anyway, moving to the next thing. Cinderella. You guys, I should really put this up so you guys can see. All right, cool. Enjoyment, everyone. It's good to see that there's some nice African names there. Remember, if you need your African names, we're having the truckloads here today. All right, so back to the screen, everyone. What we're looking at is so if you don't know the story, this is Mary. Mary was unfortunately an enslaved woman, but she was somewhat married, if you could be, and her husband had a child called Thomas Alexander. Thomas Alexander here, this guy with a very nice hat. He goes down history as one of the greatest generals from Europe, France at least, anyway. And very good fighter, apparently, very good general and the rest of it. So he's known in history for that, and he earned quite a bit of rank and assets and stuff through his military, know-how and how he defended France and all the rest of it. But anyway, he had a son called Alexander here, another Alexander. And this individual, is quadroon. He's raised a quadroon, and he's famous for writing the Three Musketeers. I don't know if there's any black characters in that book. It would be nice if you guys remember. I can't. It would be good if there was, but I suspect there isn't. But yeah, he wrote that book, and a very famous book, made a considerable fortune. I can only assume. Anyway, he obviously found another European wife, and then they had this individual son who has been called quadroon. Greetings all. And what happened then is he's going through life, and he actually found another wife, a European, and then they had Mary, who was the same name as the first. So it's good that the name's popping down. Excellent. And and then she obviously had a son, and her son, I think he was, what do you call it, the sword fighters. I could be wrong. I believe the sword fighter, quite established. I think quite good. And he's Alexander. So yeah, he's a white guy. I don't know. He obviously knows because they're quite a famous family. But as you can see, this woman, no wealth that was accumulated will go to the country she's from or her family. She was pretty much an enslaved woman. But she did have a son, and the son did have a son, and her family's still alive today. They're Europeans, in law. But that's what happens. That's what it is. So where we're today. Okay, cool. So now we've got through that. And the reason I have to go through these distinctions and stuff is because obviously when we are going to eventually start talking about black men and black women and black love and these concepts and the reason behind, it's good to know a history of what was tried before, as in people who dislike black people considerably. There's many ways they've tried to kill black people, and then in many ways they continue. It wasn't just butchery and this kind of stuff. They generally had certain plans, which you could call biological warfare, which was brilliant. They didn't want to try that in Brazil, because in Brazil at the time, at one point, Brazil was actually heavily more populated by people of African descent, black people. I think like 8%. It was quite a lot. And after slavery was somewhat abolished, they called laws to and they called out to people in Europe, all over Europe, to come to Brazil and just live there. And that, I guess that was one part of the Negro problem, that they've got too many and they're going to dominate. So that was part one. And when they got their numbers up, they also had these concepts that maybe you can breed black people out of existence. So the higher elites didn't want necessarily do that, like the royal families. They wouldn't want necessarily have African blood in their bloodline because they're very particular about blood. But they didn't necessarily mind some of the like the lower people. They started doing it, and then they could just breed out and have more control and just deal with the Negro problem. So this is something that has happened consistently, and it's something that doesn't just necessarily happen to people of African descent. Generally, non-white people all over, this was a way of how Europeans, one way, there's many ways, but it was one way of how they dealt with people of African descent. And it's very important that you know this because, when you talk when you talk about Black Burman, there's certain things that really works well. Um, that let me put that comment up. When you talk about Black Burman, there's certain things that really we know work really well. And that is Black economics and Black love. These concepts, right? And where I'm going to take this conversation isn't just necessarily to let Black people know that this process that you willingly do was once a weapon of war, which is now it's free, so I guess it doesn't matter, right? This kind of stuff. But also the problematic situations that can arose when you do this. And I'm going to play some videos for you now. Hopefully in that time I can fix my great stuff. So let me find these fantastic. I wish I actually made a number. Let me play one first and I'll do that one. So everyone just look at your screen, share video. Let's find the date. So the date of this show is what, 28? Yep. And videos, and which one? Difficult to proving. Nope. All right. So I'm not gonna play with them. I'm just gonna play the first few seconds.
Mother, a grandfather she had never met, in a family history that she never suspected. Gail Lukasik could not have predicted what she would discover when she decided to dig into her mother's mysterious past. Watch.
This is my mom and dad. And as far as I know, my father went to his grave never knowing my mom's secret. My parents met during World War II. My mom was an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman. My dad, he had a great sense of humor. He served in the Pacific. He was very proud of that.
In 1944, after the war, Harold Kalina married Elvira Frederick. They settled in a working-class neighborhood in Parma, Ohio. In 1946, their daughter Gail was born. Throughout her childhood, Gail says her mother mystified her in some ways.
She was very meticulous about her makeup. She would wear a light foundation makeup to bed at night, which I thought was a little strange. She would never go out in the sun unless she had a wide brim hat. She would cover her hands with gloves. Really didn't like to be in the sun.
But Gail says the biggest mystery was her mother's selective memory when talking about her own father, Azimar Frederick.
I said, Mom, when was he born? When did he die? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember.
Growing up, Gail never saw one photo of her grandfather. Finally, in 1995, when she was 48, she decided to search for his identity, combing through microfilm.
At first, I couldn't find him. Then I put in the 1900 Louisiana census records, and suddenly I see the name Azimar Frederick. There are all these Fredericks in the same household. Then I noticed something else very curious. Next to all their names is the letter B. So I go to the head of that column to see what it stands for, and it says race. I thought, B? Does that mean black?
Gail wanted to confront her mother, but first she reached out to the state of Louisiana, requesting her mother's birth certificate.
I pretended I was my mother and that I had lost my birth certificate. I opened that birth certificate, and there in parentheses were 3 letters, COL. So I wrote to the state again and said, my birth certificate said COL. Would you please explain to me what that means? They sent me a very official letter back, and they said, COL is for colored. I just was speechless. I didn't know if my mother knew, but I'm thinking, how could she not know this? And why has she never said anything to me?
We're joined now by Gail Lukasik, who has written about her mother's secret past in a new book, White Like Her. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you. Here. So you did finally work up the nerve to ask your mother about this birth certificate. It took you 2 years, but you finally sat down with her. You knew it had to be face to face.
Yes, it had to be. This is not a conversation you have on the telephone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you asked her why she's listed as, quote, colored on the birth certificate.
I did. I told her I'd found her birth certificate. It said colored. And she became very indignant with me. And she said, I don't know what birth certificate you have, but mine says I'm white. So I thought, well, wait a minute. So I said, Mom, I have some other documents that I could show you. The census records, your father's listed as black. And I have a letter from the state of Louisiana saying that COL means colored. Well, she got very quiet, very quiet. And she's sitting in this large chair, and it almost seemed like the chair was swallowing her because she got very small.
Hello?
And she looked at me and she said, you have to promise me you will never tell anyone until after I die. And then she said, because how will I hold my head up with my friends if they know?
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was 1997 when I confronted her.
So she...
Hello? Hear me? Ah, you can hear me. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, now it's moving. Ah, this futuristic. Anyway, so you saw a bit of the video there. That's one of the videos I wanted to show you. Yeah. So I mean, I still haven't worked out this audio stuff. It's mad, you know. Oh man, this stuff. Anyway, right. So yeah. So basically, the woman there, her mother, had a black parent and didn't want to identify as black or even have any connection. The husband didn't like black people, so he wouldn't be best pleased. All this kind of stuff. Anyway, and there you go. So, but the next video I want to show, very quick one. It comes from Australia. I didn't find the timestamp because I'm not serious, but what I want you guys to be aware of, what aware of, just to focus on, is there's situations in Australia where certain money and stuff is reserved to help fix up the Aboriginal community, and obviously, this is what it is. But some people feel away about some people claiming it. So let's hear this. All right.
Tonight on Insight, Aboriginal or not?
Who gets to determine who is Aboriginal?
What happened when you applied to have your Aboriginality confirmed?
I was denied, like getting spat in the face.
There needs to be a better system in place. You just have to look at me and tell I'm Aboriginal.
I'm an Aboriginal Australian.
You totally look like a white fella to me.
We shouldn't be judging each other by colour.
Right. Okay, I'm still here. Yeah, you can. Good.
Hello, I'm Anton Enos, filling in for Jenny Brocky. Welcome to all of you. Let's get straight into it. Dallas Scott, tell us what happened when you applied to have your Aboriginality confirmed.
Well, cut a long story short, I was denied. And when I went in to ask about it, no one had given me any response or anything why I was rejected until I went in the second time to actually have my Aboriginality approved. And then that's when.
All right, now we're going to skip right to where the European gentleman comes in.
Listen,
There's
Through the,
there we go. This guy.
lived there
Let's
for
see what he's saying.
decades. It seems unusual
these
that
are
they wouldn't be
situations
known
that,
in the
being
community.
in Sydney, that we come up against a lot because, there's such a transient place and the membership changes so much sometimes. So, yeah, look, it's...
What do you think of that, Faye?
There was a woman a young girl came in after us. We were sitting there after we'd been denied.
She was from Darwin. She was there in Sydney for 1 week. She stood up, said I'm Aboriginal, they took her. Straight from Darwin. No connection to the...
Well,
she had no paperwork, nothing.
Is it a transparent process, Paul?
Well, it's, and I could only speak for Metro Land Council. It's one that seems to be working. You know, it's not perfect, and I don't think there is a process that is perfect.
But I think we also have to... Acceptance by membership, and the boards of land councils are a new thing, and there's very prescribed things that board members have to do, and acceptance and confirmation is not one of them, and that's not passing the buck, but membership is for all of the members. It's horrifying to hear it goes to votes. I think explanation processes and saying where you're from is probably a much better way, but I think drawing that connection so it's not just board members who are sitting in this considered judgment of other people.
Can I just say that there's a big reason for that? You know, a lot of Aboriginal students are missing out on scholarships. You know, a lot of Aboriginal people are missing out on jobs because there are people that do come in and say they're Aboriginal when they're not. And there's you know, this puts everyone in two minds about membership. And like I said, that's up to that group of members to determine whether they accept this person into that membership as a member. That's their role. You know, if they don't, you know, there are other places they can go outside of a land council.
It's self-determination, but it's an imposed system anyway. I sit on the board of my land council, even though I don't live there, and it's one of the most difficult issues.
Well, so how subjective then would the process be?
I mean, I think if people take time, subjective, yes, in a way, but that also underscores that there's actually a complexity that Aboriginal people get involved with when they are trying to engage other Aboriginal people where they're from.
Right, just so you know, this individual
it actually
here is
means something, and if people spend the time engaging with those people,
if you didn't know,
then I don't think it's, you know, it's not a yes/no vote. Here's my paperwork. You know, talking through and face to face. That's the way we deal with it, and it's not an inquisition. It's actually a conversation, so people actually feel comfortable that their history and their experiences, complicated as they are actually being listened to.
The issues are fairly clear-cut, but you still, I would assume, have to knock some people back. Does it happen very often?
Well, you also have to take it extremely seriously. And the other thing I would say is getting a confirmation is absolutely not a rejection of your Aboriginality. A confirmation does not make you Aboriginal. You know, so I think we've got to be very clear about those kind of things. I mean, Dallas would, you know, you walk down the street, so certificate of not. Sorry, Annie Pat.
The issues that we've been hearing so far have shown just how ridiculous it is to have a formal set of criteria that someone has to adhere to. Obviously, what we should be looking at is first, why were those criteria established? What was the philosophy behind them? And we know those three criteria off the top of our heads.
All right, so
let's
see if I can go to more. Let's see.
All them people telling me, hey, no, we're going to tell you whether you're Aboriginal or not.
So this guy, he
so
hasn't
many stories. Mark, we haven't heard your story yet. What is your Aboriginal?
We were that Aboriginal
This guy
family.
did.
There's a couple of other people who went through the Andrew Bolt litigation. And
let's go through.
And
Let's
going
see.
to the right.
Let's see if there's any.
Didn't look black, so
with being Aboriginal.
All right, let's hear what this.
I didn't get anything.
Aboriginal lady has to say.
I've had a life experience.
Let's see what she has to say.
I'm Aboriginal in Wiradjuri. My grandfather was born at Brungle Mission.
I assume this is her
grew up
family.
my whole life
I could be wrong.
being Aboriginal.
Could be wrong.
And my
She is
colour
Aboriginal.
is not anything about my Aboriginality. My colour is something that was imposed through colonisation. And I am Aboriginal. And the sort of mention of the fact that, you know, Indigenous students going to university somehow don't need assistance is not right. Because what we're doing is the same thing that was done to us. We're judging each other by colour. It's not right.
No. We're the ones that get coloured and pointed at.
What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be judging each other by colour. We judge each other by our Aboriginality, our ancestry, our relationship to each other.
As visually black people are discriminated against because we're black.
But we're also
I mean, I've had to forego that many jobs because of my skin.
Yeah, but I get it too.
Not because I'm Aboriginal, but I'm black.
Yeah, but
I'm
I get it
offensive
too.
to look at.
But I also been denied a job because I didn't look black. So I understand that there is discrimination for those that look black.
But you don't understand what he said.
Oh, I completely. I don't get it.
I have drove down the street at Redfern in a car as well, going to work and being pulled up and my car searched. Now, have you ever had that done?
No, and I can completely agree
Why
that because
haven't
I
you
don't
had
look
that
dark,
done?
but I also get rid
Auntie's
of
gone in there?
people
Okay.
consider reverse racism, but it's still racism. Just because I don't look black doesn't mean I'm not Aboriginal. Doesn't mean that I've grown up that way, and it doesn't mean that I can't be proud of who I am. Just because I don't have skin colour makes me no different to any of you that have colour. My family is my family. My community is my community.
Okay.
We all know that. But just because I'm
let's
white
get a
doesn't
comment.
mean.
Let's get a comment.
Okay,
from
well, we're going to
West
stop that there, guys. I mean,
to any of you that
just
each other and
this
understanding
is obviously
because
important for us. This woman is obviously, you know, one of the darkest there, and that's probably a natural hair, so you know, good on all that kind of stuff, right? And she goes in on a bit.
creates that division.
But this is her
it
husband.
creates.
This is her husband. That's her husband. So if you can see it, this is whatever. It's fantastic skipping. So anyway, he goes on like this. This guy's also Aborigine, and he refuses to show his pictures and stuff. I mean, it's a whole 1 hour show or something. You know, a whole other stuff. But the reason I show this, and let me put this away so we can start our talk. Stop share. Hold on. Stop share. Is that the one? Oopsie daisy. Hold on. Stop. Let's get rid of it. How do you remove that? Add stream. Remove. Ah, here we go. Oh, hi. So we're there. Anyway, guys. So I hope you can still hear me. Looks like it's still moving. Yeah, so I mean, the reason I'm showing this is and this is what we can also start to talk about, and it's many, you know, it splits into many things, but it's kind of how white supremacy works. So basically, you know, you have obviously dark-skinned people in Australia who were genocide, killed, and all the rest of it, right? They were killed, and then you know, after many years, they realized that maybe it was wrong to kill them because it's not really nice. And then they set up some kind of like fund where they can go and you know get certain things to do with. A lot of them do with alcoholism and all other challenges, you know, from being exterminated, that kind of stuff. Right? And what happens is, through historically people breeding. I will send the link for you guys because obviously this is interesting stuff we want to see. I watch very interesting stuff that very good to see, unfortunately. So I'll put all the links in there. Very interesting conversation. But remember, we're watching these things to learn because these are what people identify as black people in Australia. These are their variant of black people. And this is what they've gone through. And unfortunately for them, their numbers are much lesser than us. And they actually have, I think the people in the Australians have gone through more genocides than people outside of it. I mean, there was a genocide in South Africa as well, around about South Africa, but by the Germans. But yeah, but yeah, go for it. But the reason I say it is because today in Australia, everyone can pick who they want, marry who you want, love who you want. Of course, you can, right? But you find that anywhere from 52% to 77% of Aboriginal people choose to be with non-Aboriginal people, and usually white is for the preference, of course, and then of course even those Aborigines themselves might actually find themselves actually having a European parent anyway, right? And what's happening is obviously a lot of Europeans they're not being discriminated for looking like Aborigines, so-called Aborigines, and they're qualifying for all the treats that's given to Aborigines, and because of how the law works and all that other kind of stuff, they're getting it. And once again, when it comes to who's going to be more favourable, a person who looks European and a person who doesn't, as we find in Australia, as we find in many other countries, the European phenotype is much more appealing and seems to manage to get this stuff. So my area of interest isn't necessarily that, because that's something that we should know goes across the board. It happens in India, in the Americas. It happens in any land you find Europeans colonize. That's a system that they put in place. It's unfortunate. Hopefully we can deal with that at some point. My area of interest is the Aborigines are all complaining there. All of them are upset. They're all saying, you know what? It's not fair. You know, you Europeans are taking all our stuff and you all this other stuff. But all of them have European wives and husbands. All of them. All of them. So what I'm saying is, at one end, you have people who want to, who understand the problems of being. They understand that foreigners have come to their land, impose something upon them, taken their resources, and give them in small, doses that other people can qualify for. But with the psychological training that happens when you are conquered, that when you are in a land where the standard of beauty has been defined for you, all right, where you are the epitome of ugly and the people who harm you are the epitome of beautiful, even when choice is given, many people still choose to pick a people group who benefit from your destruction. And that is, I'm just showing you what is going on with the brothers and sisters in Australia. And there's many more things that'll make your heart weep, all the rest of it, right? But it's important that black people know this if you don't know this, yeah? And this isn't pointing fingers or saying someone is bad, someone is right, do this, don't do that. It's understanding the history of white supremacy, yeah? It's the history of white supremacy, how it works, yeah? And how best to tackle it. So right now, if you're a black man and you say black man for black women, this is a controversial statement. This is controversy. This is, whatever. But there are some people who think that, until we actually fix this race issue that's going on, maybe it's best if we just, procreate with, people who went for the same experience and try to work on that. But when you have people who go to other groups and promote predominantly the groups that benefit from your destruction historically, these are the challenges that you see, and there's so much history of pain in it, and it is very tragic. It is very tragic. It is very tragic. And so when I will want to one day speak to a lot of the brothers who have preferences, so-called preferences, and I'm interested to know the root of the preference. The root, because once you understand the root of the preference, then we can really identify is some kind of self-hatred going on, and people don't like using that word. They don't like using that word, but unfortunately, that's what it is. And one other thing that we have to be aware of is many of the Aboriginal brothers and sisters, as well as the Native American brothers and sisters, from Canada to the South, whatever it is, all the places where they have interaction with European. Unfortunately, many of them have pick up habits that weren't present prior to landing. So alcoholism, this kind of stuff. It really is most unfortunate. And then you have the Europeans, even in the past, saying, well, you know what, these people, after we tried to kill them, they live in such a way, we need to take all the children back. And hopefully we don't want them because they do resemble Aboriginals. But we do know that if they have sex with Europeans, after 1 or 2 generations, what we'll see will be phenotypically a European. So at least that way, things can move on. And at a time, we can move on. Now, also, there's one other thing as well. And this is more so for the people of African descent from the West, the Central, Southern, and the diaspora towards the South. One thing you have to understand is when you look at what's happening there with the Europeans claiming all their resources for the Aborigines, when you look at it in America, this happens as well. So you have like American people who identify as Indian who have land and getting certain kind of benefits. And then the same day you see many Native American people, very small in numbers, but having European partners. The reason I'm saying to the people of African is because if you are talking about this reparations claim and this kind of stuff, right? Well, it won't be too long, if not already, where the people who get reparations will actually be Africans, so-called Africans, if you want to, go there, who are fully European in phenotype, completely, as in no question. And their mothers and fathers were fully European in phenotype. So that person is probably more likely to get reparations. Do you understand? Now, what you have to, and let me see if I can find the link for that video when people start talking. But what you have to understand is, I want you to notice that none of the Europeans the Aboriginal Europeans, however you describe them, had any sympathy whatsoever for the Aboriginal black fellas, as they're known, right?
Hi, Raven. How are you?
How's it going, brother? Good. I'll let you jump in just for a second. Let me just finish this saying it's your turn to take off.
Yeah. I need to change my shirt, so go ahead.
Yeah, take your time, man. Take your time, my friend. No rush. Yeah. So what I was saying is, they had absolutely no mercy for them at all, and they couldn't even hope to relate. Maybe by design, maybe ignorance, who knows, right? And what they would then use like this is reverse racism, the language of the colonizers. So that's why today, last week, and the week before. When I tell you that when we are trying to reverse some of the psychological problems of racism and these kinds of things, recognize in hardship through the people within your group who are the most oppressed is very necessary. So that's why I say highlight darker skinned brothers and sisters, highlight the women, you see, because many challenges go through black women, right? That we have to address, and we have to fix the solutions through them first. Many challenges go through darker skinned people of the black collective, and we have to go through them first. You know, what we don't want to do is have slightly light skinned people telling slightly darker skinned people you don't have pain and all this kind of stuff, right? Black Aboriginal sisters and brothers got a bad dose of jungle fever. Okay, well, yeah, like I said, up to 70% in many places. That's what it is, and already the mix is there. So I'm not going to start talking about eventually, Aborigines won't exist. But it is a conversation about, because with Africans at the moment, black people, there isn't necessarily that kind of fear that black people won't exist. But I can assure you, if the Aborigines, it actually really is a fear, just like the Native Americans. It's a thing that, and what's happened is the, people have made a separation between so-called culture and phenotype, right? How you look and how you look as it pertains to your culture. So now it's like, the notion, and this is what we have to watch when we talk to black men as well. It doesn't matter what color you are, as you see them say, it's your culture and that stuff, isn't it? But it's despite that, even if it was true, it seems that the person who looks more European seems to be getting most from that deal. And this is the challenge.
Raven.
Yeah, can you hear me, brother?
Yeah, can I chime in?
You most certainly can. Go ahead.
Let's be real. Those the video you just showed with the panel of Aborigines, I was looking at some of them and I'm like, these are straight up white people. Come on.
Yeah.
They're not fooling me and they're not fooling the audience. I mean, and one question I had to my mind is, and this is going to sound controversial, but, hear me out. I was thinking, would you agree whites have absolute privileges over blacks in European society? Would you agree with me?
Yeah, I would agree with that statement, yes.
Yes, right? The common white man has more privilege than the common black man, correct?
Right. Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was thinking to myself, why would these people want to identify as black if there's more privileges in being white? Like, what is there to gain? And I'm not saying there's nothing to gain, but I'm just saying, like, this is how, white supremacists would think, right? Why would these people want to identify with black if there's more privileges, correct?
Right.
And,
well,
so go ahead, go ahead, answer that.
Well, if that's the question, this show, it shows you there, like, so from here to, the thing is, you got to understand that within European culture, things happen at the back of the mind, the front of the mind, right? Within European culture, not everyone is in the same position, and that, like with all humans, everyone is always trying to get the best they can, and very few people will put down an opportunity. So if a person has opportunity to get land for free, money for free, they'll do anything. They won't think, oh, hold on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what you're seeing. So of course, the Queen won't care the Queen won't care to pretend she is Aboriginal. That she doesn't need to do that. But then some of the poor people might. Like some of the guys in that video there, the people guys, they themselves are claiming stuff. They're getting perks. And now here's another thing that I've noticed, right? And I could be wrong, but all the Europeans are talking. They were surrounded by European-looking partners and so forth, right? So what you have is the Aborigines complaining that the European-looking Aborigines, so-called, having all the resources, and they themselves, the dark-skinned Aborigines, are picking European as husbands or wives. However, the lighter so-called Aborigines, the European Aborigines, they are not picking darker-skinned Aborigines. They are picking Europeans.
Right.
So it's almost like, certain people understand what's really going on, when it comes to benefits and how to prosper, right? And I think, and I guess I could use the black population in Australia and say, as usual, the people who are identified as black are always the last to know. And this is the kind of stuff we're going to see, I suspect, when I start debating black men who don't think it's necessary and have no attraction to black women. This is what his sister made me. This is what we're seeing. So it's it's
Well, then that just goes back to the saying $5 Indians, because the Native Americans, we look in the American context, they were promised land and many other benefits, and I guess the white people, because they wanted a share of those benefits, began identifying as Native Americans. The way they did it was that they would go to the registry office and they would basically pay $5 under the table to have them classified as Native Americans. So it goes back to the idea of maybe they're identifying as Aborigines because there's benefits. Because as they did show in the show, the Australian government put together some initiatives to help the Aborigines, and I can see it as unfair for those white-looking Aborigines. To me, they look white. I can't distinguish them from any old Europeans. So I can see why it's unfair. If I was an Aborigine, I would call that out myself. If I was a dark-skinned Aborigines, how come these people who basically are white, taking all the privileges? So yeah, I can understand that point. I do sympathize with the Aborigines. So what happened to them was like just nothing short of crimes against humanity.
Well, we agree, but what I would say is when you look at the Africans, the Native Americans, the Aborigines, the Melanesians, and these kinds of things, all over the world, this is the same kind of principle. And the reason why I have to speak is like if the world was colorblind, then there would be no need for me to speak because it was colorblind. But when you look at certain people groups, when you look at the black people group, whoever's identified as black, you're going to find that they date out much more than others. Therefore, showing you that if colorblind exists,
that's blown out proportion, in my opinion. I think that they are more is blown out proportion.
Yeah. Say again, they are more is blown out proportion.
No. I said this whole idea that black people are dated interracially is blown out proportion.
Well, let's unpack that. Let's unpack that, right? If the percentage is high in compared to others, even though it might be low from the numbers you're looking at, if it's higher, if say black men are more likely to pick a non-black woman than say Asian men or European men, whatever it might be, right? Then that already is a problem. That means the so-called colorblind black men are more colorblind than others. So then we have to say, is that colorblind?
But is that the result? Is that the result? Proximity of color blindness? Because let's just be honest, in London and pretty much anywhere in the world where there's a black and white population living together, they're likely to be segregated. Correct? All the non-white people in London, and I'm in London, are shipped over to the east end of London, and the whites in the west and central, right? So if a black man wanted to date a white woman, he would likely have to be in the same areas where white women are at. And that's not necessarily always a given. Do you understand? So because of that, I think it may be a combination of color blindness or inherent colorism and proximity, because you date who you're more likely to date who you're next to.
We're going to let Sister Betty jump in to give her opinion because she's here now. But before she does, I'll say, I always talk about things that happen in the back of the mind. So when we say color blindness, I suspect that many black people are not colorblind. They have a system in their mind of how they prefer their preference, and they might be unaware that itself has been conditioned, right? So that's my area of interest, and obviously my job is to try to reverse that with black people because looking down upon yourself and not seeing the value of picking someone from your group is problematic, especially when it comes to political science, where you're looking at these other people groups out there, these other communities, and all they can do is complain. But when they can't make the government treat them fairly, but they can pick their own parents. And unfortunately, not parents, they can pick their own partners. But many of them don't necessarily see that as anything connected. But anyway, Sister Bay, you got anything you have to say?
Hi, Raven. Hi, blessings. I just wanted to. Hi, Ahmed. I just wanted to give people some figures from the last census. And it basically says that Black Caribbean men are 48% of them are in mixed race relationships. Black Caribbean women are 34%. But when it goes to Black African men, it's 1 in 5. So there's a big disparity. You're more likely to find someone who is Black from the Caribbean in a interracial relationship than you a Black African. Yeah, and that's my experience too. Growing up, most of the people I knew who were mixed race had a Black Caribbean father and a white mother. Yeah, I didn't know many that had a Black African father. So, but I feel like that is more to do with the fact that Caribbean Black people have had to hang out with white people for a lot longer than what Black African people have. And I think there's a what's it, post-traumatic slave syndrome, where the idea that if you have a white woman, you're a somebody now.
Mm.
That if you
Betty,
have a black woman,
can I ask you a question? Betty, can I ask you a question?
Go on then.
What has your experience been like with colorism? Like, have you ever been rejected by a black man? Have you been called? Have you been name called? Like, what's your experience been?
What woman hasn't been rejected by a man, a black man?
I mean, what's your experience like? Like, what have you gone through so you can put into context when you because
But then honest truth, I'm not a dark skinned black woman. I'm in between. I'm not light skinned. I'm not dark skinned. I'm just in between. If you're in between black person, you don't really feel it as much. Most of the people where I live who are like light skinned black people, they're not actually black. They're mixed race. It's quite rare where I live to find someone that's like as light as Raven that is just has two black parents. So where I live, I'm just considered, a medium black skinned black person. A person who's considered dark has got to be as dark as Michael Jordan. We don't have a lot of light skinned black people. Most of them are mixed race. So I didn't get colorism. My darker Nigerian friends that were dark like Michael Jordan, they felt it. They were the ones that felt the colorism, that you're too black. But what I found it from Caribbean people. What I grew up in, I remember having this Jamaican friend, and she was a beautiful dark skinned girl, chubby girl as well. And I just remember the Caribbean girls always telling her how black she was. She's pretty, but she's black. She's too dark. Everything was down to being black. What I knew as a kid was that you better not be African and you better not be black. Mean you better not be dark skinned. That's what I had with colorism. But in the Nigerian community, we don't really have that. It's not because everybody's black in the Nigerian community. It's a black country. We don't have the same type of idea.
Yeah, because when you were reading off the statistics about Caribbeans and African, you said with regards to African, only one in
5.
Can you hear me? Yeah, 1 in 5 Africans stay out of the race. That's approximately 20%, whereas the Caribbean was like 48%. Am I right?
Yeah, for the black.
So I think because I feel like when we say black, we have to be cognizant of who are we talking about and which demographic is dating out the most with regards to black. With Africans, I feel like there's been this long stereotype of like Africans are freshies, Africans are this, Africans are that, and that may have. I feel like Caribbeans have much more. Their culture is much more appreciated and recognized and lauded. So that could also help with the interracial dating. Other ethnicities may view Caribbeans as exotic, and that may be one of the factors contributing to the large rates of interracial marriage in the Caribbean community. Am I right or am I wrong in my analysis?
I think yeah, but also like you said, because like the person said that they've got more in common with Europeans than what Black Africans have. I was speaking to a Caribbean brother from, I can't remember what country was it. Is it Montserrat or one of those? It was definitely M country, and he basically said that coming to Britain, he went into white girls because they're like you don't see it where he is, where he came from, the Caribbean. It was almost like, oh my God, something I've never had before. And I think that's what it is for some people as well. That it's just like, oh, the taste of the forbidden fruit.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I try, there's also another component I want to move in on this. I was watching a small documentary about a lady from Kenya, and she was going to America. This was, and I think unfortunately she ended up becoming a prostitute. I think against her will for the most part. But she was naive when because she thought that no one suffered in America, everything was good. But when I started watching the documentary about her, it was interesting. In the first thing when she was saying what she was looking forward to when she was going to America was finding a rich man. So sorry, finding a white man. Sorry. So her, a white man was the epitome of success and ease of life. So for her come from living in Kenya, where I'm sure there's Europeans there anyway, but as she was going to America, this was on her list of things to do. And I do wonder how many people from wherever Jamaica or Africa or whoever does this, where they're going to England or America or these other places, and that's on their mind, right? And this is the thing where it's like, do we need to have a reform of culture where we collectively saying that, is that a good thing to have in your mind where you don't know anyone, you've never been around it, but you go there with that in your mind? I don't know. That's something I realize, but you guys,
But Raven, can I ask you a question?
you can.
Do you think black women fight harder for black men than white women or other ethnicities, or do you feel like white women only get with black men for some malignant reason? Is there like some sort of a gain for them to get? I'm talking about strictly like white women in this example. Is there
So
something to get from in a racial relationship?
it's very difficult from a base to basis to well, the thing is, when you talk about miscegenation and interrelation marriage, everyone will always give you the most epic story. So they'll say, I was homeless on the street, and then I looked to the heavens, and then a non-black woman came from the heavens, and she had all this silver gold flying around there and stuff. And then you go, okay, cool. If that's your truth, then I can't say anything in it. But what I can do is look at the data and statistics in it. So if you're looking at most men who are becoming rich and successful find themselves with a certain type of woman, then we're seeing what's happening in it. Now, if we're saying that, this is if we're seeing that data, we don't need to care about the unique story that they give us, right? Because the bottom line is, successful black men from all over, wherever it might be, might not be end up with black women. And I mean, we spent this time of the show, if I can go back to it, talking about about generational wealth and these kinds of things, right? So when we look at where are we? Let's see what's the point. There we go. Voila. So when we look at when we look at this stuff here, right, we are seeing like imagine this guy here is Michael Jordan. Everyone likes using Michael Jordan. He's Michael Jordan, isn't it? Now Michael Jordan has a European wife. Michael Jordan's one of the richest black men of all time. He's young. He's older than his wife, and he's been through much more heartache than his wife. Now I don't know what he's got anymore. Who knows, right? But when he dies, it's gonna pass down that way, right? It's gonna go to a European community. I think isn't that happening right now with Psycho? Who's that happening with at the moment? Where someone recently died and there's
Kobe Bryant.
Is it Kobe Bryant? Is it? Maybe.
Also that boxer.
Oh, the boxer. Yes. Oh, yeah. Marvin Hagler. You mean? He's not Kobe Bryant. Marvin Hagler. Yeah, and I think he's got a new European wife. He's got 4 kids with a black lady, but he's got a European wife, and I think she's maybe in charge of most of his stuff. I don't know.
Raven, right? The reason why is because I myself, I don't have an issue with interracial marriage, but I feel like oftentimes one of the arguments that's given out against interracial marriage is that non-black women, they don't understand you, they don't do anything for the community, they won't fight for you. Because there's this one example of this Somali man. He came to Cardiff in the mid 1900s, right, the 20th century, and he was actually convicted of murder, and he was falsely accused, and he's hanged. And his wife was actually a white woman, and she for 42 years fought for him, and she actually helped get him exonerated 42 years after his death. So I feel like that's an example.
Hold Hold on.
Yeah.
So, because I remember there was in Wales, right? Because
His,
as far as I remember,
his name was
he was
Mahmoud Matan. His
he
name was
might have been one.
Mahmoud
I
Matan.
think he was the last person to be hung. So the irony is the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
person
He
to
was the
be hung was a
last
slum
person
dog,
to
right?
be hung.
Yeah. So,
Muqaddam, yeah.
who was he accused of raping? His wife.
No, not raping. He was accused of killing this white woman, this shop owner. You can search up his name, Mahmoud Matan. But he was accused of killing her. He was
I remember
actually
seeing it.
and you know his barrister, his defense barrister, his defense lawyer actually described him in the court as a semi-civilized savage.
Yeah. No, the thing is, brother. The thing is, look. Here's
Yeah,
what it is. Yeah. Individually, right? We always want to give props to people who do correct behaviors, right?
yeah.
But the problem is we cannot equate the individual behavior to the masses of people, because
I agree.
if the behavior of that individual wife was the same as the community she came from, he wouldn't have been hung. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And that's why I think at some point maybe we might fail in processing information. That you have to look at the collective matrix and not necessarily the individual behavioral patterns. Yeah, because not everyone is the same, right? But if it doesn't matter how good one or two people are, if the whole of your people are catching hell, what does it matter? You know, it really, it's like you give them their props. But what I'm saying is, it, like here's how I'm trying to train black people how to think, right? And it's like this. For whatever reason, I've landed in a rainforest, and from the heavens came a non-black woman or a non-black man, and they're the best. They're literally divine. All the rest, whatever you want to say. Okay, cool, yeah. But do not preach that as the golden standard. That every person you're going to find is going to tick these boxes, isn't it? It's like this. It's like this. When it comes to black betterment, what is more valuable for black betterment? Yeah, is it black constructive black man finding constructive black woman, a constructive black man finding constructive non-black woman? Which one is more better for black betterment? What do you think, brother?
Could you repeat that, please?
Okay, so there's two options, right? So if we want to contribute to black betterment in a society, and we are making what is known as templates, right? Templates. What is more better for that society when it comes to black betterment? Constructive black man with constructive black woman, or constructive black man with constructive constructive non-black woman.
I
We'll say
would say the
European.
former. The former.
The first, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if that's the truth, we don't need to hear any Lord of the Rings whimsical story, do we? Because we understand that that is just the basics, right? And that's why I try to break down to people, look at things as templates and lifestyles, isn't it? Yeah. And take emotions out of it. If you're a vegan, it means you can't eat meat. So what I'm seeing is, if I can just change the analogy, it's almost like someone going to a vegan going, look, what if I had the hamburger, right? And as I ate it, I was crying. So everyone could see I was unhappy and I was feeling the pain of the animal. That doesn't really mean much, because there's a rule. If you're a vegan, don't eat animals. Simple. And what we're doing, and it's something that I'm pushing, is called what was I read it down? I brought it last week, right? But it's the was it bench rebranding? Is it benchmark rebranding? I can't remember. I think benchmark rebrand, yeah. And I said black people are the masters of it, innit? We're constantly repurposing the packaging, the benchmark, and we make things, all universal, so we can literally hit a low target. It's like, no, we understand that in order for the black community to thrive with everything that goes on, the pillar standard is constructive black man with constructive black woman. And if you're not practicing that for whatever remarkable Lord of the Rings story it is, you still have to acknowledge, okay, I'm doing this, but I can't push that as a norm, because that works against you. Now, is what I'm saying correct? All you need to do is look at the video I showed you before. Do you understand?
I agree. But what do you say to those who say, or what do you say to those who, like, for example, let's just say you have a black man and he's dating a white woman. He said, oh, I couldn't find any black women, like all the black women, that I came across were interested in me, didn't want to be with me. And there's this white woman, she decided that she wants to be with me, so I went with her. What do you say to that argument?
Well, what I say is black people, no matter what we say, are collectively inadequate. So when you look at any other people group, right, and you look at the what they define as a perimeter for marriage, right? So right now we're using the color matrix, but if let's use the religion matrix, right? Yeah, you tend to find that Muslim women will marry a Muslim man. Yeah, because that's what they're trying to find. So that you're never going to find a Muslim woman in Palestine going, you know what? Yeah, I couldn't find a Muslim man, so I married a Jew. Yeah, you know what? I tried. Yeah, they thought I was ugly. It just ain't gonna happen. She's gonna find a Muslim man. She's just gonna have to maybe she wanted one that was 6'7". Now she's gonna sell for one who's 6'2" or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? So this is but only black people when we speak to them. And what you're doing, I'm not saying you're doing this, brother, but I'm just showing you what black people think. Is they're rebranding the benchmark. And what they do, they'll give you whimsical stories. I'm talking with epic dragons, with sea rising, heavens falling, arch nemesis, and at the end of it, the person they picked is there with food, water, weaponry, and everything else that is plentiful and good. While the people they come from, they don't like you, they don't respect you, this kind of stuff. And I'm saying, okay, maybe that's the truth, but it isn't beneficial to preach that narrative when you realize you are from a collectively inadequate people. And I'm showing you across the sea that other people who are defined as black people in Australia, they are practicing a form of collective inadequacy by complaining to the government who first, one, practiced genocides on their neighbors, two, took their resources, and in an attempt to maybe fix some legacy of pain, they end up giving the resources to people who look like them anyway. You see? So what I'm saying is, this is how we have to really think in it. Now, like I said, we have to take the emotion out of it, and we have to take the look, if tomorrow I just give up, I go and I do something else, whatever. If ever there's anything you want to remember what Raven said, it's very important, is that black people are collectively inadequate. And the reason why that's your greatest weapon is because when you're going to start talking to people and you want better for your people, right? They're going to give you kumbayaism and they're going to make you feel guilty and they're going to accuse you of being reverse racist, like you saw on the Australian thing. Oh, you're using color, they're going to use all that stuff, right? But when you go, hold on, we are collectively inadequate. We find ourselves in a collectively inferior position. So this is the equivalent of someone going, I'm fat and ugly. And then someone going, yes, you are. You see? It's like you're bearing the challenges. So if people can't synchronize with that, then they're potentially your enemy, because you wouldn't allow a person to bear all their shortcomings and want improvement, and then you just continue toppling them, having them practice what got them in that place the first time. Right? And I understand that you think you're anorexic, but you know what? I don't think you should eat for another year. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make sense. But to black people,
Okay.
it makes sense.
Can I add something to that?
Go ahead. Editor and speak.
In terms of when I personally heard black men that say that they couldn't find a black woman, etc. Those type of black men, they don't want a black woman and they don't want a black family. What they want is a multiracial family, and they're too ashamed to admit it, and because they're around people who disapprove of interracial relationships. And I know black men that have actually flown to Africa. My brother was in the United States of America for several years. He flew all the way to Nigeria to go and find a wife that spoke his language, that came from the same area of Nigeria that he came from, and he worked his butt off in America. So if you really want a black woman, you don't care how long you have to work and how long you have to go without, because once you get your queen, it's gonna be worth it.
But even then, and I agree with you, but even then, okay, what I mean by this is, wait, as a man, right? Let's say you build yourself to someone who is successful, right? And you turn around, you say, I want to get married, I got resources, I want to start a family, right? And you look in your area, and the environment that you're brought up in and that you're in is not conducive to family family life. So like you go abroad, or you go to different areas and you explore and you meet somebody who thinks the same way you think, and has the same goals, and beliefs and you say, I want to couple up that person. Now, for you, your brother went to Nigeria, but even if in this case that I'm talking about, that guy went to Africa, the women in this country will still complain. They'll say, oh, oh, why are you going abroad? Why are you dealing with women in this country? So I feel like no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone that has a problem with it.
Yeah, and once again,
you're not meant to please. Sorry, you're not there to please everybody else. You're there to please yourself. It is up to you as a human being.
Exactly. So then why do you care if he dates interracially?
Let me finish. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody makes a decision. It's up to you as a human being. But the black men I know that say they can't find a black woman and stuff like, they don't want a black woman, because you can't equate a black woman to a non-black woman. It's not the same thing. It doesn't matter whether this white woman, this Asian woman eats and jollof rice, whether she's Andrea, whether she knows how to cook it. It doesn't make her a black woman. It's not the same thing. You can I know white women that are married, men from Gambia that speak Wolof. Yeah, white women that speak Wolof. Yeah, white men that speak Wolof. That still don't make them black. But you don't have to improve. You don't have to marry a black woman in order to improve the black community.
I agree.
And but if you're going to date interracially, yeah, don't use other black people as an excuse because you're too afraid to say you don't really care about the color of the woman. If you don't care about the color of the woman and you just want a woman, say it with your chest. But there are people but doing that does not create a black family. It creates a multiracial family. Being a black person creates a black family.
I hear that because
black community. If you marry and procreate outside your race, you're building that other person's community, not just the black community.
But that child's biologically black. If his father's black, you are the seed of your father. And let's just say what you said. You said
that's Bible talk. That's Bible talk. Yeah.
You said, Betty, you said a man who dates interracial doesn't need to bring up black people as an excuse. He should just admit that he doesn't want to be with a black woman. Is that what you said, more or less? Paraphrasing.
What I said was that if you don't mind what race the woman is, yeah, you just want a woman, say it with your chest, but stop using the other black people and say that because the other black people are saying, oh, I've got to be with a black woman, that means that, oh, I'm a bit scared of my choices. No, you got to be a man about it. If color does not matter to you, say it with your chest. But the people who color does matter to them have a right to promote it and say it. But if you don't agree with that, then do you? Because they're going to do them. Because for me personally, I mean, not want no one that ain't a black. I don't want no multiracial family, yeah? But if someone else wants to have a multiracial family, they're going to do them, I'm going to do me. But stop using other black families as the excuse.
Right.
Because
go ahead, go ahead.
Let me jump in and we can. So there's questions in the group I'll just go over. So one thing, I'm talking about the idea of benchmark rebranding, and that's what we're doing. And what I'm saying is the facts is just there, right? The idea is to let people understand the facts. So some people make choices and they don't realize what's actually going on. Whatever you want to do, you do. I'm just here to educate you to know that how things contribute to certain ideas. Now, to the first question, I don't think they're the same. There's a gentleman who talks about is black betterment African betterment, and I said yes, and then he says people probably call themselves black but don't admit they are African or want to learn the language or wear the clothes or even visit Africa. Yeah, so the thing is, brother, you have many different people from the same place or similar kind of background, phenotype, and because they've been separated by boats and shipping years, they adapt new identities and stuff. Remember, black people are collectively inadequate and they've been made that way. So this is one of the things. It doesn't necessarily matter really that people are from different backgrounds. What I'm saying is all these people are sharing the same experience. And by working in unity, there are ways to actually heighten the guarantee of a betterment outcome. Other people groups understand it better, like the Jewish community, the Asian community, in the particulars there. But black people, because of the separation, because of the self-hatred, and because of the only thing I'm going to say black people are experts at that I've seen when it comes to of a collective nature, not individuals. Individually, black people are amazing, right? But what the collective skill that I see black people do really well is the collective skill of benchmark rebranding.
Yeah.
So whenever
You
we
explain
get
that concept. Yeah.
okay, so what it is it's like every other people understand, yeah, a template. Like regardless of what you want to do, this is the template for betterment, right? And even if we're not doing it, we promote that, right? Black people, unfortunately, what we do is we then start going, okay, someone says that a black man and a black woman makes a black family, and that's the best way to practice black betterment. No, love has no color. Black, whoever you marry, the seed is black. You know, and you know, whatever it might be, and do all this kind of stuff. And then it becomes even more and more convoluted. And then it's like, well, actually, you don't need to work. You don't need to. You can if you want. You know, take drugs or whatever, man. Whatever it is, yeah, that's the rebranding. Yeah, and before you know it, you had a template that works that might be very challenged to uphold. And why is it challenging? Because you're in society where people tell you that this is better, and what they say is better is actually not of you. And because of low self-esteem, back of the mind thinking, you want to dabble in these areas. So rather than dabbling in there and go, okay, I'm walking away from something that I might return to, you then rebrand it. So that's where I'm going, is where I'm going to stay. You see? It's also that same concept where what happens is certain nations, after they become defeated or after they go through a low economic period, they fund for like certain people groups to go out into the world and learn skills and come back. They've been doing this since Egypt times, right? But the government tells them, when you do this, you're not going out there to find a wife or husband. You're going there to learn, to come back to better our people. Unfortunately, many black people, they benchmark, rebrand, and when they go to these other nations, they become of the other nations and they stay there. And they pick a wife of the other nation.
That's a big problem. I agree.
And if you don't believe me, look on the screen. You see? Can you see what I'm saying? Yeah. That is the concept. This brother here is wealthy. None of his wealth will go to black people. Do you understand?
Which one's wealthy? Which one's wealthy?
All of them. But this, well, he's the latest one on the screen, right? He's inherited her wealth, his wealth, his wealth, his wealth. She had no wealth. Yeah. What I'm saying is, this is literally how it works, right? So what I'm saying is, this is a template. Now, it's like you can marry a cartoon character. You can do what you want, yeah. But if you're a black person and you rebrand that, and how I mean by rebrand that is by literally being amongst black betterment circles, and all we're talking about is, well, surely, you know, marrying non-black people, it can help black people. It's like, that shouldn't even be a conversation, because if we were to go to a Jewish circle or an Asian circle or any other circle, they wouldn't even come up. These conversations wouldn't even exist. It only exists in black circles because why? We're collectively inadequate. You see? So that's why if tomorrow, let's say tomorrow I go and I marry 5 white women and I leave. What happened to Raven is
okay.
The only thing you have to remember is this important thing, that black people are collectively inadequate, and once we accept that, it will force us to actually make what they call hard decisions. Like, do you want to marry a black people or not? You know? And that's what it is.
Raven, let me ask you this question. Do you believe mulattoes are black? Yes or no?
I believe that legally, I'm happy to call mulattoes black, but I understand that, you know, because of confusion stuff, I'm more than happy to use the term mixed black. And the reason I say mixed black is I understand that they have a black father. Now, I understand the context, right? A person is born to the world, they have no choice in their heritage or their parents, right? I can't talk to them about the choice they've made. Now, if they are of identifiable black or African ancestry, yeah, then they have a right to practice anything they, you know, that might better their people. So in that context, I'm happy, right? Yeah, but I'm not going around looking for mulatto people or mixed race people.
It all boils down to what this idea of black is, because you have the Betty over in one corner saying, you know, you need to marry a black woman who is biologically black. I don't want to misrepresent what she's saying, but then if a black man decides to marry a black woman who happens to be a mulatto, all of a sudden, oh, your color should. This idea of colorism should be shouldn't
let,
exist
let me
if he's
jump in.
marrying a black woman who was a mulatto.
Let me jump
It
in
all
because
boils down to what black is.
we're jumping. Let me jump in just
Should
so
we
to make it
separate
clear.
them? Like,
Hold
what
on.
was it?
What I'm saying is, everyone has their own explanation, and there's a history of hurt going through the community where people have rejigged certain ideas, or they've gone to old ideas because of how things have ended up, and people have their own right to do that, right? We can't really compare that. But what I'm saying is, you know, what you do is what you do. If you want to improve black people's livelihood, you will live in a way that is conducive to that, innit? Yeah. So, if you feel, that you're with a person who has one European parent and one non-European parent, or whatever, and one black parent, no one's going to argue, because whatever. But what I'm saying is, we go to the more extremes. We're talking about marrying someone whose community has already benefited from the plundering of your community, you see, and not doing anything once you're with them to reverse that, and then using that as a benchmark rebranding process to train other people that this process is a way to achieve betterment. You see, this is what you call inadequacies, collective inadequacies, right? So I'm saying, once you understand that, then you see, people like myself never have arguments with anyone else because everything we do is geared into black betterment. We never have to argue about this. Like, what if I wanted to marry a Chinese? It's like, what does that even mean? I don't know what that even means, right?
No, we're not arguing that.
I'm not saying
We're
we're
not even
arguing.
arguing about. We know
one
that.
thing about colorism? Because like Ahmed asked me something about colorism, and it's just come to me. One of the things that I noticed about dating black African men, and the ones that were dark skinned like Michael Jordan, was they just seem to be looking for a light skinned black woman to procreate with. And it was almost like a fetish. It was like,
So what's the
wouldn't
problem?
show
She's a
the
black
same
woman, so it
love.
shouldn't
At
matter.
one moment, Ahmed, they wouldn't show the same love and interest in a woman as dark as them. And they thought it was acceptable. Like comments like, oh, your skin, like, I had this guy that was from Uganda, and he's like, oh, your skin's light, it's so light. But if you were in Africa, it would be darker. And then he started talking about these mixed race. Don't you like mixed race people? And that's when I thought, oh shit, you one of those insecure, dark skinned men. Yeah. And that's what you're gonna find when you fuck with a lot of these African brothers, yeah. If they're on a darker hue, the British, the French, they've done a job on them. Sometimes you would think if they were from Africa and grown up Africa, that they'd be proud and be happy the colour. But what you find with a lot of dark-skinned men, especially the ones in Africa, they got serious self-hate issues. They're just looking for a light-skinned black woman, and if they can't get they'll go and find themselves a mixed race one or Cinderella or Rapunzel to lighten up their children. They feel like when they got a white woman or a light-skinned woman, they're somebody. But if they actually procreate with a black woman that's as dark as them, they feel like they're a nobody.
And that. So what I'm saying is, that's the truth that Betty's dealing with. Betty's dealing with. It's something that when you want to correct a historical challenge, you have to always make choices based upon that, innit? Right? So that's why I'm telling you that how we pick,
Raven.
how we choose, how we describe is part of the healing process of the legacy of that. And also
Raven.
having. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. I need to
sorry
answer
to
the
cut
question
you.
first, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you. This will be like last, and then I'll shut.
That's
But
fine.
the problem why you're having issues with black betterment and constantly having to define yourself and redefine is because black is not homogeneous. If you look at every other community, Chinese, Asian, whatever, right, white, they're a homogeneous group. There's a certain way they look, there's a certain culture they practice, and there are values and teachings that's common among them. With black, you got all these different hues, different people, different culture. Black is not homogeneous.
Do
It's
you
not
want me to answer that
homogeneous
quickly?
in culture
So,
or
so,
race.
so
So
answer that
Raven,
quickly.
I feel like you can't have this whole black thing and move forward unless you divide people. That's
Right.
just the way, in my opinion.
So yeah, that's fine. So the quick answer to that is black people is a collection of people, right? There's many different people you can define, whether you want to say mulattoes, whether you want to say Yoruba, whether you want to say Afro Jamaicans, whether you want to say any kind of definition of black, right? The idea is, that it's a group within groups, right? So if a Yoruba woman is with a Yoruba man, that's cool, isn't it? If Afro Jamaican says that's cool, isn't it? Yeah. Whatever culture you practice, right? But here's what it is. I will find the Euro man, yeah, who practiced black betterment, and he's only going to do Nigerian things. But we're going to get on because we understand, yeah, that making sure that the people who are white supremacists who define these terms, yeah, understand that we're going to work within that parameter to improve our reality. So we're not going to allow inadequacies and rebranding benchmarks and just talking to talk, yeah. Because if you watch me talk publicly, I say in it, when it comes to helping black people, yeah, no, when it comes to mistreating black people, everyone knows who black people are, isn't it? But when it comes to actually helping black people, we don't know who they are. And this segues to the question the brother asked in the thing. Jewish is a religion, the Asian is a continent landmass, black is a racial ideology. We can't compare to them. The only one we can compare to our group box that is white. So yeah, so Maroon, fitness. One day you should come on. You're always welcome to speak, brother or sister. I don't know. There's two people in the picture. What I would say is, yeah, the same thing to you, right? You're right. There's so many different categories and stuff. But remember, the most important thing I say is people group, not race. I say people group because what happens is through a lived conditions, people become a people group, right? Now, the people group identified as black are suffering a similar challenge all across the board. And because of that reality, I'm saying unify under that strength. I give the example when I speak publicly, right? If I was walking down the street and I wore pink shoes, right? And for some reason, I really love pink shoes. I really loved it, right? And I found that armies of people were coming to beat me down because of my pink shoes. And for some reason, I just didn't want to wear green ones, yeah? I would unite with all the other pink shoe people to fight to defend the pink shoe pride. Now, there'll be a pink shoe person who's 6'2". There'll be a pink shoe person who believes he's a cat. There's a pink shoe person who believes he's Spider-Man, whatever. But it's understand that we share that common stuff. So the thing is, all across the world, when it comes to pro-black, or black betterment, or black first, whatever it might be, wherever where you're from, those people understand it. The people who don't are the universalists, the kumbayas, and this is fine because you live in the world, and then you end up practicing behaving like unfortunately the Aborigine brothers you see on the video I show you, where it's like it's just a whole bunch of confusion. And when it comes to oppression, we know who it is, but when it comes to solutions, we don't know where it is. I'm just straight cutting it. It's like that's what it is. When it comes to definitions, brother, I've written a guideline, and if you want to know who black people are, look up the term sub-Saharan African, look up Afro-textured hair, and look up black people Wikipedia. This conversation is for those. Many of those are from different places, isn't it? So within their own people group, they can practice betterment. I don't necessarily need to worry about a black person in Peru because they deal with their issues, but they can use these philosophies to help their community. You see? But the funny thing is, if the black Peruvian were to come here, he will be subjected to the same challenges that black people face here. And if the black person was to go there, so same, right? So what I'm saying is, it's not that confusing, and the people who are synchronized understand it. It's just getting the normal
Raven,
people.
I want to go back to the relationships.
Go ahead.
I want to bring it around back to the relationship, right? Black women and black men, because I think we all understand the basic concept and idea of black betterment, right? But when we talk about black women and black men's relationships, I want to ask Betty, what do you think is the biggest problem when it comes to black relationships? Is it that black men are choosing light-skinned women? Is it that black men are not doing something? Is it a problem with black women? What is your opinion? I'm asking this to Betty so she can enlighten us, because I don't know. I'm just trying to understand.
I would say, and I'm not a black woman, I'm not a black relationship expert. This is my personal opinion and what I observe. What I notice in a lot of black men is misogyny, the sexism of many of them.
What does that mean?
The hatred of women, the disdain and dislike for women, the belief that they're superior and that they want to control black women the way
that's why they get
control white
interracial.
women.
Bingo, you just hit it right in the nail. And that's why, because oftentimes, and I see this particularly with black women, right? Even I don't see this among black women of other cultures outside of the West. I mainly see this among Western identified or Western black women. This idea that, because a man wants a woman who's submissive, or a woman, or he wants to be the head of the relationship, all of a sudden he's misogynistic or he's this and that. And now you have a movement of black men who are deciding to go into countries like Brazil and getting with those Afro-Brazilian women because they know that those Afro-Brazilian women are traditional in their thinking. And that's why black women, because I feel like, you know, feminism is this poison that black women have unfortunately, taking, and are now, you're seeing the effects of it in the community and in just, the wider society, the fall of marriages, the rise of single parent households and all of that. And I don't understand why black women are so, so are trying to hold on to this ideology. I just don't understand, because on one hand, because I feel like if a man, right, if a black man wants to date a traditional woman, right, his best option is to date abroad or a woman of a different ethnicity. That's just
Okay,
my opinion.
then this is what I don't understand, because I think you're actually contradicting yourself, because you're saying that you don't mind the race of the woman. So if black women are doing feminism, as you call it, why are you worried? Because you want to date outside your race anyway. You're not going to
No, it's
be
not.
with a black woman. You've got your whole options open. So what difference does it make what black women are thinking? Because as far as you want, you don't mind if the right woman comes along. If she's not black, you're going to take her.
No, the
Why would
issue
you
is
worry
not the
about that?
race.
How does it affect you if you're
No,
prepared
okay,
to
let me answer.
entertain? One moment, Alan. If
Okay,
you're prepared to entertain having a relationship and procreating with someone that's not a black, yeah, then why are you worried about what black women are doing? How's it going to affect you?
okay, let me explain, right? The issue is not the race of the woman. Just because she's black doesn't mean, she's a feminist or she's all of that. The problem is conditioning, it's culture, it's ideology and value. A lot of black men who are going abroad to find wives are really picking black women. In this context, let's talk about Brazil. There's a community of men who are traveling to Brazil to marry particularly Afro-Brazilian women, because those women are traditional in their mindset, their values. The problem is that particularly Western black women have held on to this ideology of feminism, which has made it. But if you're a man who gets his economics and resources together, you know, and you turn around, you say, "I want a wife, I want a black woman," your chances are slim to none. So you're either gonna have to date another ethnicity where they're raised traditional. A Pakistani woman in the
No,
UK is likely
Ahmed,
to be
no,
more
Ahmed.
traditional.
If your example, if you're saying a black man cannot
Yeah,
tolerate a black woman from the West because she's adhering to feminism, as you call it, what's
yeah.
wrong with the so-called? You can't go back to Africa and find a traditional woman there.
That's what I'm saying. Go in Brazil. A lot of
Well,
men
you
are going to
out
Brazil
then.
to get those
Well,
Afro-Brazilian women.
you did go. So what's the problem? Which black woman is complaining about a man going to marry a woman in Brazil?
No, no.
I
The,
don't get
you
any black women complaining about that.
There's no. I'm saying that a lot of black women in the West are complaining about colorism and why are these men dating interracially is because these women are better options. That's why. And I
Better
see black men
options,
trying to explaining to them and
better options
telling them what's the problem, and they're
by
not
who?
changing. These women are not changing. These
By
black women are
better
not.
options by who? Better options.
No, better options to black men when with regards to finding wives. These women are a
Black
better
men that
option.
think similar to you. Like I said
Pardon?
before, you misquoted me. I did not say that I believe that black men should be with just black women. What I said is, do you? I personally am not interested in procreating with the oppressor and hooking up with them. Yeah. But if you or another black man, if you say you don't want to be with a black woman, you say that you found another woman that can do everything for you, then do you. Meaning I don't care because I got my king. Why I'm gonna worry about a black man hooked up with Becky or whatever, Halle Berry or the mixed one or Megan? I don't have to worry because I got my black man here. But what you're doing is you're projecting because you know within yourself, especially, you know that your community will look down on you when you go and marry outside your race. But ultimately, as a man, yeah, this is the world we live in. If that's what you want, then you got to roll with it and hold your shit. Because not everybody's going to like your partner. But that you cannot have people make your choices for you. If you honestly believe that you can overcome race and racism by procreating outside your race, then hold on to it. But you can't go and blame other black women because they're complaining that they can't find a black man. Why should they?
They're the ones that are complaining. They're making videos and going on TV and radio and saying, "Oh, black men don't date, don't date." You just said black men don't like black women. They're misogynistic, and we're just explaining ourselves. Well, not me, but most men who are dating women of other races or culture are explaining themselves, saying, "Hey, I want to date you guys, but the problem is that I can't find, any, available black women who think the same way I do. A lot of them are, believe in feminism, and so I decided to go abroad."
Hey guys, good arguments, and obviously because the show's right now and there's questions and stuff. Yeah, but this is good. It's good, and obviously, what I'm saying is, it is a topic that really touches us. But let me just go back to an example I was given. It makes a bit more clarity, right? At the heart of many of these conversations is pain, right? And the idea is to understand pain. So if we're saying that in the community we have dark-skinned ladies and light-skinned ladies, and the darker-skinned ladies are going through pain, and they're going through pain because they feel that maybe certain people are being pushed forward and some people are being undermined and belittled, then we have to try to be in a situation where we try to spread that out and make sure that that doesn't go on. Because if things were happening equally or evenly, then people wouldn't find something to be upset by because they would be unaware. So the idea is to do that. But the best way to do that is focusing within the community, right? When we start dealing with these issues, I'm sorry, dealing with other groups, whatever, it only extends the challenge in it. So a request is, can we have extra 10 minutes? We certainly can, because obviously, this is an issue that people want to do. And remember, the idea of this issue is to help train us when it comes to the values of black people, marrying black people. Now, some people are saying, what about North Africans? So I want you to notice that something was happening. It's called, it's like a paradox that we go on. So I say black people helping. And if you follow me, you see it all the time. And someone goes, we shouldn't say black, we'll say African, right? And then you go, okay, you say African. They go, well, we say African. And the same person will say, well, we say African. What about the Algerians? And see, and then we go, oh, not them. We go, and then we go into like a paradox of going back in it. So what I've done is it's universal. There's 3 wiki pages. One is called Sub-Saharan African, one is called Black People, and one is called Afro-Textured Hair. Those are the 3 people I'm talking about. And within those communities, wherever they find themselves, practicing betterment amongst their communities is the best strategy and pushing forward. Yeah. Now, when I write the word black, I write capital B, black, and at the end of it, star. That star means.
Rave, I'm going to drop off.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for your contribution. You've done really well this week. Hopefully, see you next week, brother. Yeah.
You too.
Yeah, of course. That star represents black people. And as you can see on the screen at the moment, many different people from many different places, right? So if you yourself do not see a certain black people as black or whatever it might be, the word I'm giving you as a language, a guide, is greater black. What does that mean? In India, the landmass is known as India. When you want to connect the other places, Thailand, that share similar cultures, in English, we use the word Greater India. Yeah, London comes right to the edge of East London, but you can actually, if you go a bit further to Ilford, you can actually make an extended map and say Greater London. So if everyone becomes confused with black and they don't want to include, just use the word Greater Black. Now, if people don't want to include mulatto or whatever, just say mixed black or mixed with black, right? All fine, yeah, because within black people, there are many distinctions and people groups that you can correlate with to do whatever you're doing to produce betterment. The only rule is, do not mistreat people as you're trying to treat other people as well. If you follow those rules, you always progress. Yeah, yeah. So that is why I use the term black. I'm also a Pan-Africanist. I'm anything to do with black, any collective name that makes black people progress and works together, I'm that. So if we say teddy bears, I'm a teddy bear. You see? Because what we can't do is benchmark rebranding. And what benchmark rebranding does is when you finally get something going, someone comes and says, well, hold a minute, what are we? That kind of stuff, right? But when we're being mistreated and land's being taken, we know who we are. Oh, we know who we are. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, this is the tools I'm giving you. And remember, regardless of whatever I ever give you, black people, if tomorrow I decide I hate black people and I want to go and be a teddy bear, whatever it might be, right? Remember, the one thing I told you that's going to help you is accepting the truth that collectively we're inadequate. Yeah. Yeah. And all this, oh, well, if you call yourself this, or if you only identify these kind of, no, because other people groups have got it right. Other people groups have extended and diminished certain kind of names or certain kind of barriers, and they've done really good. Not only have they done really good, they've also successfully mistreated black people in order to better themselves. Yeah. So I'm part of the black group who are not going to sit around arguing about definitions and stuff, right? And let's see. Okay, let's start identifying as African because the last time we ruled, we were in Africa. So we have a brother saying African. Now, here's what it is, and if the brother's from a Somali background, this might be a contributing factor. There are many people groups that have a proud history, and a lot of people don't want to identify from trauma, even though they might be going through it. And I respect that, and that's what I'm saying. Your understanding for your own people groups is necessary, right? But some people they'll go, "Oh, this person is identified through the transatlantic slave trade. I never went through that. This person is identified through being arrested by police. I don't go for that. This person is arrested by living in a different land. I never went for that. I get that, right? So whatever you feel you have to do to progress or identify, that's fine, isn't it, right? You can be a people within a people. As long as when you're a people within a people, you do not mistreat other people in that greater group, you are still practicing a form of betterment, you see? You know, yeah, young brother is speaking based on a shared living experience. However, we must be open to this thought and we can all learn how to build solutions. That's right. Yeah. So
and I mentioned that also in terms of what he said, but especially in the Somalian community, Somalians are really clan-based and
Somalia,
tribalistic.
sister, just so you know, I think it's Somalia. Just because I remember being corrected on that. So I think it's the Somali people. Just the
Somali,
regarding. Yeah.
Somali. They are really clan-based, and if a Somali chooses to go outside their race as well as outside their community, you know, it's not going to be easy for them because they're onto bloodlines like this. My forefather was Ahmed, and his forefather was Hassan, and his forefather, you know, all that. And then if you go out of there, they don't even like their people marrying another clan. So for you to even think to go outside of Somalia, then you want to go outside of Africa, and the next minute you go and bring Rapunzel, Cinderella, you know, Snow White into the mix. The aunties, they're going to be losing their mind. They can get ostracized out of the whole community. It's not something that they support. They're quite a close culture because majority of them that are outside the world now is through war. It's by force. It's not by choice.
Yeah. So I've spoken to many Somali brothers and sisters, and with each people group from different parts of the land, you're always going to find very distinct, unique challenges. And as a collective group, whether people identify or not, we always want to be merciful and understand of people's shortcomings, right? And also how people identify and what the hell they've done. So anything the Somali community needs to help go through the challenges of identification or challenges or whatever go through, we support. I think at a certain point, not all, but certain people in certain kind of communities, you know, it's best to leave them where they're at unless they need assistance because, you know, they're still dealing with inward challenges, right? And like I said, community pride is something that many Somali people go through. So identifying through another people's struggle, i.e., the transatlantic slave trade, they won't do. Although they won't necessarily talk about the so-called clan challenge that they go through because of, you know, very proud-based people and, you know, great achievements through life and great history. But I think that the emphasis I'm pushing on is understanding that certain people have certain challenges and we have to work with them, and how that segues to women is understanding that there is a challenge within the black community because of the history of white supremacy and these kinds of stuff. So we have to make sure that we're not openly doing things that contribute to that. And one thing I'll be pushing forward, hopefully, to the community is ways of communicating, like actually, collective codified way of speaking. Like, if you are a person and you only like extremely light women for whatever reason, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying that if you articulate that in a certain way, then you are going to cause certain pain because of the history of colorism, and this was the norm openly in the mainstream. So people can't actually what's the word? Go ahead.
Raven, look, one of the things that look, they are African men, black men, whatever you want to call these people, yeah, that I've got a fetish for light skin, yeah. But when the tables are turned and they're told that I don't want you, then all suddenly they lose their mind. So when people say it's a preference, I don't really think it is a preference, because I've noticed when they're told that tall, dark, and handsome is off the list, I'm not interested, then all suddenly, oh, you got self-hate, that's not fair, aren't we all black and stuff like that. So I think it's a lie when dark-skinned black men say that it's just their preference.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's more influenced.
I agree.
I noticed that they don't push the light-skinned black man with the really dark-skinned black woman like Lupita. Even though it happens in real life, and I know couples like that. How come when I look at black media, I look at the Nigerian celebrities or the Kenyan celebrities, I don't see that image they're not portraying that image.
Well,
that's by accident, is it?
Very true, and that's why when you talk about political science and you talk about propaganda, pro-propaganda, by being aware of the psychological challenges that a community goes through, you will write certain codes and certain algorithms to help balance that out. So but the problem is with black people. Well, there's many problems. Not owning resources is one, but two, not being synchronized in this kind of thought pattern, meaning that when you actually get into a place of power, you might actually contribute to the problem rather than fix it. That's why black Burma is important. By having a certain knowledge of self and a certain knowledge of history, you can try to reverse it to better the outcome. Because like I said, the perfect example is the Aborigine video there. Those people, the Aborigine brothers are complaining, but they have no idea that their choices they're making is making every single generation harder for them. You see? The choice they make, the choice.
Another thing as well is in terms of this business of blaming black women, what I've noticed, this is what I mean by self-hate, and there are many black men that hate black women, whether they've got mummy issues, whatever created it, but there are black men that generally don't like black women and they have a disdain for black women, and then when they got a problem, they want to blame it on a black woman. Yeah, I know black men in my life who I've noticed that the ones that they got a white woman and it didn't work out, and but they claim that they're blacker than black and they're proud to be black, and then they want to appear to talk black, but they sleep white. Yeah, and then when the women around them remind them that you're a walking contradiction, you're telling me how happy you are to be a black man and you're proud to be black, and then your skin is like midnight. Yeah, the minute someone tells you that your seed isn't just black, yeah, then they lose their goddamn mind. And then the same black men that talk black, yeah, they want to tell a black woman that if you straighten your hair, you get a relaxer, you want to be white. But they're the ones that are laid up with the white woman making mixed race babies. The contradict, and they don't get the contradiction. And then when it don't work out with Snow White and Cinderella, then all suddenly it's a black woman. She was saying things. Do you know that guy Ty Diggs from when Stella got her groove back? That black guy, yeah. He didn't marry that white Jewish woman, and when it didn't work out with his white wife, that guy went ham on black women and said, because black women were telling me that, I should have been with a black woman, and they would give me so much hate because I had a white wife, and then they called my son a black son when he's actually mixed race. That guy was like a kid blaming black women, all because the relationship with the white woman didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. Very true, Sister. And as usual, you cock a lot of head. And just so you know, I will be trying to talk to many black women, and one of the things I'm trying to do is accountability, and to never really go back and forth with black women. Like black women need to have a forward bravery kind of way of speaking, where they own up to certain things. Now, let's answer the question about maroon fitness. Hopefully this makes sense to you, right? The question was, one of the best ways to destroy a unique person is to simply identify their existence as black. That is a simplification. And I agree with you. Now, here's what it is, brother, right? One of the values, and I'll put it on there for you to have, and it's very important, very important. I'll show you the one. And this is what I'm recommending we all practice, right? It will help you as it helped me. Is the value of discernment. You see this? The ability to notice the fine point details, the ability to judge something well, and the ability to understand and comprehend something. Very important. The reason I say this is because, we don't call ourselves Negroes. People from who are in the diaspora, we don't call ourselves Negroes anymore. Well, some might, but generally, there are still organizations that might be the United Negroes because that's a trademark name from the past, right? So even though we don't identify as Negroes, we understand what it means, right? It doesn't take away the fact that some guy might identify as a Moor, a Hebrew, an African, a Pan-African, a Nigerian, a Yoruba, all the many different wonderful names that black people have, right? And I feel that when you're trying to collectively galvanize people or get people around, sometimes you use the word that is most no, but the most important thing I can say to you as it pertains to this show is you're never going to see the word black written, and it doesn't look like how it looks right now. The being capital B and a star, and that means that whatever word you want these people here, I'll show you. I'll show you just because let's go there. Let's go there. Whatever word you want the collective to represent, that star represents that. Do you understand? That star, just because this is discernment now, that star represents that. Yeah. And that's how this works. That's why I've never written black at the start, because I know that I will have Moorish brothers, Hebrew brothers, Pan-African brothers, Somali brothers, Yoruba brothers, all the other brothers, right? Say, no, we should be called this or we're different. That's fine, isn't it? But right now, this show is either talking about the collective or the groups within the collective behaving in a collaborative way that is more conducive to them as it pertains to betterment. And whatever word you want to call that, we'll always be fine with. And that star represents that. You know what I mean? So, okay. Well, once again, I've spoken to, and I don't really dwell much on the black thing because I've met people about, black is a magic word and all this kind of stuff. What I'm saying to you is there are programs. I program apps, so I know this, right? And what happens is when one person uses the app, they see an orange screen. While one other person uses the app, they see a green screen. Well, they're in the same app. They're in the same app. And sometimes they might go to a different country, then the app changes the name to suit the country. So because in that country, water is said a certain way, like water or whatever it might be, it will translate it. Yeah? That's how you should see the word black, brother. Or sister, I don't know, because it's two pictures, I'm not sure. So, brother, that's how we push the word black. But when I talk to you, I'm going to say African. Yeah? And if you don't hear that, the algorithms in your mind will translate it. Yeah? Because that's what happens to me. Yeah, that's how we do it. And by all means, when you speak, you can always interject African while someone else is black, because we all know what we're talking about, or Negro, or more, or anything that makes. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if you're new to Black Betterment or anything like this, but brother, good to meet you, brother. I don't know if you're even new to me as a speaker, but what you're saying here is something that I have heard for decades. And and it will come for decades, and it's just the way it is. Yeah, whatever word makes sense for you. Africa, cool. But here's what we won't do. If I say Africa, and then you use that to talk about non-black Africans, and if you don't know who they are, they're the lighter skinned guys who enslaved the darker ones in Tunisia. Yeah, because everyone says the sub-Saharan Africans are all different, but yet you found the Ethiopians, the Somali, the Mali, the Congo, the Nigerian, the Ghanaians, all in the slave camps, while the Africans who weren't Aboriginal or Afro or whatever word you want to use, You know, those guys were not enslaved. They weren't enslaved themselves. So what I'm saying is, I don't play that game because I've been doing it too long to know all the trickeries, isn't it? Do you understand? Yeah. And the final comment, I understand, but to me, it's deeper than surface is just the same. Names are important. That's why they took ours. Good point, brother. So whatever word you want to use when you talk here, you can. And you're going to see some guys coming, we're Moors. Some guys say we're Hebrews. Some guys say we're Pan-Africans. Some guys, we're all separate people. We're not the same. Whatever you want to use, that's fine. But as long as when you're in this platform, you understand that this platform is practicing a lifestyle known as Black Bearment, which is black people with the star, the star, the star, helping black people. And we're using the value system of discernment and discipline and dignity, very important, yeah, to help each other. You see, that's what it is.
Can I just say something in relation to that brother's comment? Like, because he made a comment saying that Ethiopians, Eritreans, that some of them have straight hair, they're not black. They are black, yeah? All black people don't have straight hair. I mean, all black people don't have afro, really tight afro hair in Africa, yeah? Yeah? That doesn't mean that they're not black. And this other myth that they didn't get enslaved, of course they got enslaved. It was called the Arab slave trade.
Yeah.
East Africa got enslaved, yeah? Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, or Tanzania, they got enslaved, yeah? Let's not play that game. And to this day, they're still getting enslaved, yeah? This is why they're getting thrown off balconies in Saudi Arabia. Their women are used as sex slaves. Let's not play that game.
Yeah. So what I thank you, sister. What I would say is, you know, people that your opinions matter, and I will correlate with any person and how you wish to speak. That's fine. But I've been around this block many times, so I don't really get bogged down with it. You know, the writing science is there, and the writing science is whenever you see that star, put what you want in there, right? And as for Africans and Eritreans, I put three Wikipedia groups: Black people, Afro textured hair, and sub-Saharan Africans. So the people groups that comprise all of those are part of the black people, and that doesn't necessarily mean they have to work together. It just means that they should be harming each other. And in their community groups, if they don't wish to venture out, they should practice black bearment, and they can easily watch what's happening here to pick up guidelines and ways of doing it. And that's what we're saying. Now, is there any questions in the forums that people like to ask? You're always welcome to jump in, people. Now, today we are focused on the topic of what do you call it? Where is it? Where's our topic? Fantastic people. Racial whitening, what it is and can it benefit black people? This is something that when we talk about miscegenation and black love, we will bring up this topic. We can't use the term racial whitening for them, so we'll have to probably use the term voluntary whitening, because with them it's something that people want to do, and we can discuss that. There you go. I wonder. Yeah, there you go. So now you guys know why I put stars. So just so you know, guys, I've been around this block many times before, right? I've spoken to all types of black people from all over the world. I have networks from all over the world. I've heard many challenges. So nothing that people say I knew. That's why the way I write has it already in the background. And if you read the small print of anything I've ever done, you'll see that whatever people want to call themselves is there. There is no black word that people can have that isn't on the paper. And you know, even teddy bear, I think I put there at one time because that's what people want to be called. So it is what it is. So, but you know, like I said, remember the important quote: when it comes to mistreating black people, we know who they are. When it comes to helping black people, we don't know who they are. We have no idea. And this is part of the you know, the technology and the benchmark rebranding that goes on many times. But luckily, you have people such as myself who have consistency as our primary value. So and we understand political science, so we don't necessarily get bogged down with the feelings of stuff. You see, because you know, I could give you manure and say this is gold, and you go, no, that's not gold, that's manure. I go, no, it's legally called gold. Yeah, but I don't want that in it. So once you understand that concept, you know, whatever stuff doesn't really matter, right? But hopefully that, brother, you're always welcome to join in, brother Marufin. This is a great conversation, fantastic. And just so you know, we're gradually trying to walk up to have conversations with men, to help reform men, to talk about certain men and the concept of you know, challenges of finding a partner or preferences, to find out is there any historical hate going in, as Sister Bear has mentioned, just to unpack that. And also, why is it that most people, when you talk to them, black men, seem to always, be quite kumbaya in certain areas, but not other areas. They're not kumbaya when it comes to loving black women, but they are kumbaya when it comes to not being able to find a woman and those kind of stuff. So, interesting conversation, and we look forward to it. But we were asked to go 10 minutes over, and we have. And I'm now going to spend this time trying to find out what actually went wrong with my brand new sound card that isn't working on my live app. Hence, I had to use my phone. So if there's nothing else, guys, thank you. You were fantastic. Tell your friend to tell a friend to be a friend. Remember, if I tomorrow go to Mars and find those beautiful women that are not black, and I decide to leave the community, the one thing that you can remember I said is black people are collectively inadequate. And by accepting this truth, you will move on. You might have, of course. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a question. Maroon Fitness said, do you think there's a difference between pro-black and Pan-African, or do you think there is a difference at all? That's his question.
So that depends. Some Pan-Africans include every single person who has a passport as African, and that's one train of thought. Some people only put the Aboriginal black people as African, and they're unique through them. I'm a Pan-African through that way. However, when it comes to trade and passports, that's fine. Whatever happens. I have no passport for Africa, so my interest is the people. How do people behave, regardless of what they own? Yeah. This is my study showing me this. Quick question here. You cannot make up history or distort it. I'm sorry. I don't know who that's for, but I'm sure that whoever that person is, they're welcome in the future time to come in, right? Let's hope you don't find the spaceship. Okay, no, yes, let's hope those the foreign planet full of the fine women. I won't find that. I'll stay here and I'll be the fine women from Earth. Yes, but but remember, even though we're doing this, and racial whitening is a very, very tricky subject. The reason we're here is because we're eventually going to lead up to talking to black men, and because when you look at the data, black men, and you could break down the Caribbean men, if you go to the African American men, and I'm homing in on those particular men. I'm happy to go those group. I know there's some African cultures go, we don't practice that. That's fine. But for those who do like the gentleman, he had, I think he might be up that kind of way. You have to define that. We'll talk to you, and it's just breaking out some questions to find out: have you been somewhat culturally? I don't want to use a compromise, but can you live in this world and be bombarded to the histories and the propaganda and the media and not be slightly influenced? Who knows? We shall discuss that. So like I said, for you who want to know who black people are, here's a wonderful picture of it. And what I might do is I would post my thing, but it might take up so much. Or maybe if I open it, let me be very quick, because this might be a nice exercise. Let me see if I can be very, very quick to use the killer speed of a millipede. Hold on. We want where is that brand? Give me 17 seconds. You count in your head, guys. I'm going as fast as I can. I'm looking for Mount. Okay, we've got Mount. We've got the new code of conduct. Okay, we're living good at the moment. PDF. So far, we're the killer speed of a. Is that code of conduct? Let's see that one. I believe. Oh, yeah. Number 3. All right. Look at that. The killer speed of a millipede. Look at that. Now, go through this fantastic stuff, but we're not going to look at that. What's this? I'm not sensitive topic matter. We don't need that. What's that? Oh, the free. Seeds of conversation, constructive context and clarity, very important. Who are black people? Look, the star, even in the olden days, the star was never not there. So in the future, black people will just be represented by a star. We know what they're talking about, you see? Right? Even other words. Look at all these other words. Look at Afro-Aboriginal archetype people. Look at that. Look at that. What else we got? Afro-archetype people, black people, Tano A, which is 5 A's. Look at that. Afro-Aboriginal ancestral archetypal alliance. Look at that. All these stuff that some more people don't feel upset by the black. But when we break down who it is, let's look. So look, from Central Africa, all these fantastic people. Are you a Mongo? Are you a Sara? What about Aluba? Well, that's where they are. Let's go down. Horn of Africa. Look at that. Look at all those Horn of Africa. That's a lot. That's a lot. Are you one of them? Maybe you are. Who knows? Have a look. Freeze the picture and see if you can circle it. Voila. What about North? Is there no black people North? I believe there are. Look at that. There they are. These people are included on the consensus. Voila. What about Southeast Africa? Voila. Look at that. Even Southern. Boom, boom, boom. And then the diaspora. All the names for the diaspora. Look, we've got all the names. All the names. Look at that. Black Seminole, everything. Afro-French. These are all the people who, by law, were defined as black and blah, 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 blah. Even the Zanj, the rebellion, the Zanj, remember them? What about the Afro-Turk? If they're still around, you know, even the Afro-European, wherever they are, there you go. Indigenous Asia-Pacific people. We're going deep, whatever. It is what it is. Yeah, and look at that. Look at that. The essence, epitome, standard black features. There you go. This is what, there's it, voila, 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 voila. Anyway. Yeah, I've been doing this for a bit, to be fair, yeah? So what I'm saying is we're moving towards black men and talking to black men about accountability and try to train them about the history of anti-black racism that might contribute to what they are defined as choice. We could be wrong. Maybe the chemicals in their mind naturally gear them towards non-black women, and there is no stuff. Maybe there's like a shape that is like, in their head, and they haven't been subjected to any TV. They've literally lived in a cardboard box, and they just come up fresh, and the first thing they see, their brain tells them is perfection. Who knows? But we're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to them. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe, family. Thank you to Sister Kushi, thank you to Sister Betty, Brother Ahmed, and all the other people. Please come back. Tell your friend, tell a friend to be a friend. We're starting something here today. We're actually starting something where we want black people to help black people on black issues, and we're going to do it in a certain way where it makes more sense. So tune in next week. I hope to see you then. Black Batman. Hooray! Have a good one. Thank you very much. I now need to fix my sound card. This is what I'm doing on. Goodbye.
Thanks, Raven.
You're welcome.
Thanks.